Guys, welcome back to part two. I know you enjoyed part one, that's why you're back. This part two is even better than part one. If you can imagine that, enjoy. Oh, interesting. Well, mate, look, if your game, and obviously depending on the second half of this interview, unless it all goes terribly wrong, I'd love to do a regular thing with you. Not like a weekly thing, but like a however much you want to chat, because I'm having a fucking blast.
I'm also having a blast. You actually remind me of a really good friend of mine, Josh Devine. He was the drummer for One Direction.
Oh, okay.
He's such a lovely guy. He's just like he's always like full of life. Yeah, no, it's like very stop, go on.
Yeah, keep going. Well, while we're talking about my ego,
Yeah.
I have to bring up the monstrosity of an accident reading your email, because I read your email and I read I'm off to a psychiatrist today, and I thought, fucking brilliant, this guy's on my level.
I'm going to London to meet a psychiatrist today, so I can't talk to you.
Well, I thought maybe like the DMT thing had sent you down a like it did for me. I have regular therapy and still dip in and out, obviously, but the when I did DMT, I had to have a few sessions on it specifically because and I'll probably go back and have another further conversation after our conversation, because what this opens up in my mind is a door that if I go into, I'm not sure where it leads, because what we're talking about is simulation-esque. It's what the fuck is this fucking thing? Why am I here? Like, these questions I think about on the daily, and I can think about that. If I have a little toke of weed, I can think about them for fucking hours, and it can bring me down. It can lower my mood. It can really make me start to be quite nihilistic. Like, what is the fucking point? You know, and like this conversation is opening more doors, which is brilliant. But it brings me back to that thought of, well, what this conversation is helping with is, okay, there is fucking more. I knew it. What is it? And I think that's a healthy thing to ask, and that's why I'm fascinated with your information.
So, super valid points, and actually probably the most important ones. That's the first thing that came to me, is like, okay, what is the net positive here for us as humanity, right? To know this. So the first thing is, I was like, are we even supposed to know this, right? And then it became very clear, or at least in the time that I spent interacting with the other side. First of all, the first logical thing, which is, if they wanted to make this invisible, it would be.
Very valid point. Very valid point.
Yeah. So it's not.
Very valid point.
Yeah.
It's just difficult to fucking find.
It's a breadcrumb. But also, I got a verification of that from the space. I actually asked, like, is this okay? And they're like, full force ahead, buddy.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's part of the thing, right? So people sometimes email me, I hope you have life protection. They shared this story with the woman that said that there's a simulation, and then she died or something. Nobody knew. I was like, first of all, I don't know anything about that story. Do you? Because I don't know if it even happened, right? But also, I mean, you can only act according to what you see and understand. And I'm sure this, at some point when it's going to become more mainstream, there will be a big pushback by something or somebody. I'm sure of it. But if the simulating overlords told you it's okay, it's like, what else do you want? But also, I do want to maybe offer a little thing here, which is that I'm completely open to the possibility, always, at all points. And it might disappoint some people, but I'm always open to the possibility that this is what we're doing there with DMT, is that we're stimulating the imagination machinery to a degree that we're not familiar with. And essentially, it solidifies certain things as very real, even though they're still what we call imagination.
Yeah.
But I would say that the only point of contact we have with anything that we consider to be real is if it can actually infringe and do work in the real world.
Yes.
Everything that was in Everything that's in this world, the computer we're using right now, the things we're sitting on, the mics, everything in the human world was in someone's mind. It was in imagination. So to use the word imagination as pejorative in this sense is wrong.
Yes.
Everything that humans made that is of value to us now was in someone's imagination.
Yep.
That means that what we think of as imaginary is not this thing that never comes to fruition. It's just like, oh, it's like, no, it has the potential to become real, right? So now the other thing you want to look at is, but there's also now we're discovering there seem to be objects in what you might want to call imagination or mind that are already by themselves feel more real. Like they seem to be like they have their own reality, right? In the sense that, for example, the code, it doesn't matter. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about the code is that when you move the laser, that's one of the most convincing things about it. When you move the laser, it's not moving with the light. It's not in the light. So it's like literally flashing a flashlight on something.
So when you move around, the code changes to suit the environment that the light's on?
No, the code doing its own thing. It's moving, but on its own accord. It's moving around its own axes and stuff, very coherently. And then when you shine the light, it reveals it. But if you look closely at where the light ends and the shadow begins, like where the no light begins, you see that it literally just replaces, like it's like putting a flashlight on something in the dark.
So it's revealing something.
It's revealing it. Around. Yeah, and you can see it very clearly. It's in every point in space. You put it on your skin, you see the same thing. It's in every point. It's space-time itself. It's literally the fabric of everything, right?
So just so I can visualize it, because I keep going back to the film. So in the film, in the Matrix, you see the phone, and the phone would be different numbers to the background, but you could still see the outline of the object. Is that what we're talking about?
Kind of, just you see it in red, obviously, because it's 650 nanometers.
Of course.
You can do it also with other frequencies, by the way.
While we've been talking, two thoughts have sprung to my mind immediately, and they're complete side tangents, but connected. Nikola Tesla and Elon Musk.
Elon Musk baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Elon Musk is Tesla's baby.
We should do that.
That'd be a great meme. But Nikola Tesla, obviously, the godfather of electricity, if you like. It seemed like he had this wealth of genius that very few of us had. He was able to find something out of nothing. He looked somewhere, he didn't create electricity, but you know what I mean? He founded how electricity works and how it was able to be applied. That's obviously to some extent frequencies as well. Do you think there could have been any connection between Nikola Tesla's genius discoveries, understanding electricity, and this connection with DMT and light? I know it's a bit out there.
No, it's not out there. I'm just trying to see if there's a reason to place Tesla as the example for this versus any other genius in history or any other insight.
Yeah, Einstein,
So it's just that obviously by the way, this is something that I recorded and I never put in the video because it was just getting too long. But I'm saying if you look at what it looks like to have a moment of insight,
yes,
you will discover that it seemed to have popped out of nowhere.
Indeed.
Like literally, it just like came out of nowhere. It just come in one piece. Like usually,
all thoughts do, don't they?
Yeah, but it does come to people that are already thinking about the subject, obviously. So they already have like the building blocks.
Indeed.
But it would come to them in the shower. It doesn't usually come during business hours.
No.
It's almost like a side thing that all of a sudden just like springs into view. So yeah, there's a connection in the sense that I think that these questions. Okay, so these questions you raised in the beginning, the existential crisis questions. I think that I'm actually staying with a friend of mine in Ireland, and he's a somewhat of a known philosopher, Peter Rowlands, and he pointed something out. He said,
write his name down.
I think that what you want to use here is the word simulacrum, not simulation.
Okay.
And because simulacrum means simulation without a base. So because when
Give
you
me, say that one more time. Describe that one more time.
Simulacrum. He says that basically simulation, at least in philosophical terms,
Yep.
it means you're actually simulating something. So it's something that already exists, and you're creating a simulation of that.
Gotcha.
Right? And it gives the sense that this is just, the program is just running, and you have no say in it, and it renders it empty.
Yes.
It makes it very like, what is the point if I'm just a
Yeah.
computer program running and doing its thing? I'm just a puppet. And he said, you might want to use the word simulacrum, because what simulacrum means, it's the same thing, only it's not simulating something else. It's just allowed to unfold.
You should talk about this more.
Yeah.
What a fucking thing. That's mind-blowing. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So
wow.
Now in computational terms, I'm not a computer scientist, but I think I understand enough about it to say that actually in computational terms, simulation would still mean that, because you can simulate the environment.
Yes.
Right? But then the actions and the choices that you make, to the extent that you can perceive them as choices, they're still an open-ended system. It's not like it's dictating what you're going to do. It's actually learning from the things you do.
Like an advanced AI.
It's just, we are.
Yeah, AGI. Consciousness is an AI. Wow.
We are the tool. We are AGI. And the AI we're developing, they're just external tools.
Mind is having a fart.
That's a good one. So essentially the AI that we know, ChatGPT, all of that stuff, people say it's going to replace us. Always a possibility, sure. But in this worldview that I'm describing, it can't possibly replace you, because you are the thing that is appropriating it. That is now it's an external tool that you've built to be just like a calculator that can calculate for you faster. But the meaning of what you're doing with those calculations still has to come from a conscious agent that's doing the thing. It has to come from an AGI.
This comes back to the ego. We're creating ourselves over and over again, aren't we? Just in different methods. Wow.
You allow for more possibilities, more interactions with the environment. So essentially think of AIs that we've created like wings. Yes. And we don't wear them yet. Right now, we're just almost like we created wings, and now it's just on a string. It's just kind of like we're running with them like a kite, right? We're just like trying to run with it. But the second that we have things like Neuralink, you'll be able to wear the wings. You'll be able to imagine ChatGPT in your brain, just part of your regular tapestry of experience. And now you're just practicing like how to utilize this externally. But everything that's on your phone is going to be in your mind. And people say, oh my God, that's a nightmare. And I say, well, it's only a nightmare if the bandwidth of being able to interact with it is as it is now. Then then it's a nightmare, because you have a straw through which you're trying to blow information out, which is actually thumbs. And you have this hose that is open towards you with like all this visual information. So there's this very uneven ground that creates a lot of stress. But if you open up the ability to also express as much as you absorb, so if you can express faster,
all the senses we have,
the ground evens out, and you're no longer in stress, because you can just have a conversation with 5 people and do work and meditate all at the same time, because you have the bandwidth to do so.
It's almost like consciousness is, we are consciousness. Consciousness is us, the same thing. Experience this reality through the body with limited senses, limited bandwidth. And this is all we can see and experience, because we're in this straw moment. But whereas AI has, where am I going with this? I was there. The AI at the moment has a smaller bandwidth, but if we open AI up to be programmable to have more senses, or as many as we do, or more than we do, then we would experience things very differently then.
Slightly different.
Go on.
That AI, so we're thinking of it in terms that AI might eventually gain consciousness and will become an actual AGI, artificial general intelligence, right? But this is another point that actually I would refer to David Deutsch, which recently had a podcast on the Tim Ferriss podcast, highly recommend it, and in which he breaks down this whole AI conundrum. And what he explains, and I fully agree with it, is that actually AI and AGI, not only that they're different things, they're complete opposites of each other almost. Because what AI is a thing that learns how to do one task better and better and better and better.
Yes.
Almost like a savant,
Yes.
right? AGI is a person. And by that, he doesn't mean that people are AGIs, even though I would say that's the case. He means that when you have a full-fledged AGI, like even living in a computer, right? Like what we think of as Skynet, like, you know, a conscious being inside of a computer, it won't be doing your work for you because it's a person. It's literally a conscious thing. So to say, hey, do this for me, it's slavery. So it won't be, it would have its own ideas.
It is fucking slavery. ChatGPT very much is slavery at the moment.
No, but like ChatGPT, as far as we understand the system, it doesn't have a conscious moment.
Of course, yes.
Maybe it does, I don't know. But then it would have a very different ethical implications, right? It seems to be happy to do what it's doing, but that's still a closed system.
Yes.
The second you start having real AGIs, it's a different kind of thing. And it has something to do, and that's a very complicated question that nobody knows the answer to, but it has something to do with what consciousness really is. At no point, even if AIs become the best, perfect at mimicking for us that they're conscious, at no point do you have access to the knowledge whether they're actually conscious. You don't know that. The only thing that can know that it's conscious is on the side of the thing that is conscious. And because of that, that's a big problem. And some people don't care about this problem, by the way. I think it's a very important problem.
Indeed.
But the point that is, I guess, relevant to our conversation is, I think that what those things are is they're literally ways for us to catch up this necessary speed,
yes,
and bandwidth to interact with the larger space of whatever in fact exists. It's almost like if you imagine this galactic federation, and in order for you to even be able to interact with those spaces that they exist in, you need way more bandwidth. You need to be able to process information faster. People say, I had this conversation with John Chavez recently, and he challenged me about this idea of like why I think that ChatGPT is good for writers. And he says, that's terrible. I will never export my work. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't think that's what I don't think you think of writing in complete terms yet, because you think of writing as the toil you have to go through with each step of writing, right? Like the coming up with the idea, making it coherent. I agree with him that it's like a super important skill, and it arranges your thoughts, and it's very important to know how to do so. But you can use ChatGPT like a GPS, and then, now nobody knows how to get anywhere because they just put the address and they forget about it, and they never have to use this part of their brain, so it atrophies, right? But you can also use ChatGPT, and that's your choice, by the way. You can use it like a calculator. Most mathematicians can do most of those high calculations by themselves on a napkin. They can do it, but there's no need, because the point is not to prove that you can do it.
Indeed.
It's interacting with the meaning of what you're trying to do. So you will use a calculator for certain things, right? Just because it shortcuts this is just busy work. This is not what you're interacting with meaning. So imagine, for example, like the way I use ChatGPT, for example, I write a piece, I write it myself. I'm giving it enough information to really what I'm really trying to say. I'm not just saying, hey, say this and this and this for me. Yes, if I would do it like this all the time, then I would lose the ability to write well.
Yes.
But if I write as well as I can possibly write, but I then also ask ChatGPT to give me an advice on how to make it better, if I'm smart about it, I will allow that to impact me. And very quickly, instead of writing a book and seeing how people respond, and maybe
open up other doors,
all of a sudden ChatGPT would just tell me, hey, did you think to say it this way? And I'll be like, oh. And then I can make decisions. I can say, hey, okay, this is better than how I said it, but it doesn't match my style. It's not who I am. So I'm going to leave it out. This is a new way of saying it. I never thought about it. I would love to adopt that.
It magnifies us.
And that's not different than reading somebody else who wrote something that you liked and you adopted. It's the same. It's just the loop is much faster, right? So it's your choice how you're going to use it, but you can definitely use it to better yourself very quickly.
Yes.
One final small tangent before I'll let you respond. My girl, she was like, oh, I always wanted to make an app on the phone, and we learned some coding and stuff. But again, it's way more complicated than just knowing how to code a little. And she asked ChatGPT, he's like, oh, I want to see like how can I build an app on a phone? He gave her a list of 8 bullet points. Download this app. Here's the initial code. Here's how you should tell me how to do this or that to give you the proper code to do these. So in one afternoon, she could make an app.
Wow.
So like, think about this. Like everybody would have the freedom, right? Now, obviously, it's also scary because you're always afraid of like the wrong people. But okay, but that's always the case.
That's always the case.
You're gonna let the fear dictate everything that shouldn't be done, you will never do anything.
Oh, what a quote. Love that. Love that. If you let fear dictate every move, you'll never achieve anything. Yeah. Oh. Can I just say this has been one of the best conversations I've ever had?
Oh man, that's a huge compliment.
Genuinely, mate. Genuinely. I think I'm actually more fascinated by the philosophy of this all rather than the specifics. I'm not quite nowhere near your level, but I'm a astrophysicist fan, if you like. I love to watch people talk about it, and I've learned a little bit. So I seem to be, I find myself being able to keep up with conversations, but in no way would I be able to apply that knowledge. So that's kind of where I'm at. Where was I going with this?
That we're just enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, I but it's the philosophy side of it that seems to I seem to gravitate more towards. You mentioned your friend there who Peter Rollins.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling me a little bit more about him? I know it's a side tangent.
He is a writer, a philosopher. He focuses a lot on the big questions and people's ability to grapple with them. His earlier books revolved around more the religious attributes, but not from the religious perspective. So it was more around like how, like those big concepts of God and something that is holy, all these things, how they relate to our modern lives and how they impact the modern life, even if we think that we're not infringed by them, if we're like secular people, but there's still always those elements that come in different forms. That was the focus of his work. And now he's actually working on a very interesting book that would be touching on this idea that at the core of reality, there's a split, that actually there's no holy object, that actually that's a fantasy that we shouldn't even think about because it sets us up to failure and it makes us feel terrible about ourselves, that we can never be as holy as God. And that's actually a trap.
Yes.
Now, I actually don't, we had a discussion yesterday. I don't necessarily agree with that because of certain things I'm exposed to, but it's a really interesting train of thought. So Peter is very much focused on these big questions. He's an absolutely brilliant human being. I just
mate, I appreciate you giving me some insight to your friend. It's I'll look him up and have a gander, as we say in the UK. Have a look. And have you heard that one before?
Yeah. I'm learning all the time. It's great. It's like all this. As crow fly, was that
as the crow fly?
I love that one. I'm actually going to utilize this. I'm going to try and bring it into America. I'm going to import
as the eagle flies, maybe.
It's the eagle flies. Yeah.
The eagle flies. So, mate, coming back to the DMT topic. So, tell me, maybe we'll wrap up on this point because I don't want this to be crazy long, or we could do a 2-part or whatever. But where are you headed with this? Where, based on where you are now, what you've experienced with everything, and we've only just scratched the surface, I'm sure. Where's your direction now? Where are you hoping to take this?
Well, the conversation is now going to take, there's the 2 main things that I'm focused on. One of them is things like my conversation with Timmerman, which actually I think went pretty well, is to convince people like him that they should investigate, people who are positioned in that space already, to investigate further into the, like, how are we, deciding whether this is real or not. And there, I have to be much more patient because I went so far with this already. I've been at it for a while, and I now have to, it's kind of hard because now I'm like, I already have my convictions, or at least, certain, a lot of the space is much more solid for me. So now to go back to square one I have to do it. I don't have a choice. I
Of
can't
course.
not be sensitive to their state of mind, right? It's like he's a scientist. He'd be like, whoa, 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 buddy. Let's take it easy here.
Show me the
Go
basics.
back. Let's break it down again all together and see if you haven't missed anything first. Okay. And it's a little painful.
I can imagine.
But it has to be done and that's already kind of work with myself psychologically. I have to do it. There's no choice. The other project that I'm personally much more interested in is actually from the perspective of physics, because physics was always my kind of like the thing that I'm really passionate about as well. And actually astrophysics is something that I started doing in a very young age in Israel when I was growing up. It was like this program that you can go before you even have to go to university. You get to start those classes. So I'm with you with the astrophysics, the very large, these things always fascinated me more than anything else. And I actually think, and this is either will be proven right or wrong, I don't know, but I have a very strong intuition, pretty much the same intuition I had before I discovered the laser, that we can build something through this. I think that it gives us access, experiential access into what the electromagnetic field is and what space-time is. And I think we'll be able to, by looking at it in real time, we'll be able to see certain changes that we didn't understand before that will allow us to build, I don't know if it's a propulsion system or like something physical. Like that's what I really think. So that's the thing I'm going to be engaged with the most personally.
Wow.
The two physicists that I'm engaged with, I'm going to try and formalize some of this. That's the thing that I really want to be doing. And I think that this is where, I don't know if you're familiar with Donald Hoffman's work. Do you know anything about it?
No.
That's already a different conversation, but the gist of it is that he's saying that he can show mathematically that the chances we perceive reality for what it is, they're pretty much zero. And that's a more radical claim than saying reality is slightly different than what we see it. He's saying it resembles none of what we're seeing. And what he's using always is the example of the desktop, which I've borrowed, because you need an interface. He always says, if you have to toggle the logic gates inside your computer to send an email, nobody will ever hear from you, right? You need an interface to do that, to shortcut the thing. So I think the laser is the same. It's the interface that gives us access of some kind of understanding of what's going on in real time.
Wow.
So we can actually construct new kind of technologies. That's my working hypothesis.
So you found the door. You found the door.
But I want to emphasize here, and this is not, I don't know if it's me trying to take some of the pressure off of myself. I really do believe that the actual discovery will be made by all of us collectively. I think it will require all of our
downplaying it, mate. You've discovered something incredible. You're downplaying it.
No. I discovered the link to how to probe into it, but I think the actual thing, the thing that will, lead to our, like, the full gates opening and not the door, will require human cooperation on a global scale.
Agreed.
So it's going to be communication. It's going to be the heart coming with the mind. All of the things that the Buddhists ever talked about, all of that will be required to open the gates.
Which, if you look at how we are as a species now, will never happen. And maybe that's why the gates will never truly happen. We may have found the door, but unless we can all collectively come together.
I'm more optimistic than you on that, because I see a huge upsurge. Okay. Even if some of it looks a little bit plastic and a little bit fabricated, a big upsurge in what we call the awakening. You see a lot of people showing up. And yes, a lot of people just post about it on Instagram because it gives them likes. That's fine. But it's kind of like fake it till you make it. I'm actually okay with that. Even if you have to fake the moves until you understand what the moves are, that's okay, actually. The fact that it's even in the zeitgeist and it's in your awareness, and I'm sure you're aware, this is like now taking over because social media allows for it, the internet allows for it, communication is faster, we have more access to it. So eventually, I do think that, again, things like Neuralink and things like that would actually, ironically, as opposed to what people think of it as like doomsday, this would be one of the tools we're going to use for full enlightenment, which is that it will allow us to engage with certain types of information faster. Well, we'll be able to accelerate the process of whatever this thing called enlightenment, which is just being okay with the present moment. because probably the full gate is probably in the present moment, and we have to collectively enter it, basically.
So Andrew Tate is right. like, I thought it was this marketing gimmick thing that he's kind of right.
Listen, Andrew Tate, in that regard, Andrew Tate is a very interesting dude, bro. This is like, I haven't heard him say, aside from the fact that he's clowning many times and he's just being in your face on purpose. If you listen to the core of what he's saying, I didn't hear anything
either,
aside from one thing, which I do think he's doing for clowning. I think that the when he goes into the whole the woman is the property, he's obviously going too far. It's just incorrect, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Some women like being submissive. That's fine, but that's not the same as saying they're your property.
All women, yeah.
Yeah. But aside from that, if you listen to the core of what he's saying, I agree. I don't hear anything that is like too off. Like
me too. Yeah. I observe him, and there's a character. There's the character Andrew Tate, and then there's Andrew Tate. There seems to be, like, when he's doing his own videos and he's more at home and he's more relaxed, there's that's Andrew Tate. And then you have this character, the billionaire, the strippers and all that type of stuff. But when he's talking, what he's doing is inspiring a generation of young men who don't have proper male guides, male role models, because there's a broken home pandemic globally at the moment. 60% of children come from broken homes, which is just fucking madness. And the removal of a man, particularly from a boy's world, has dramatic consequences. 80% of men in prison are from a broken home. You know, it's 90% of addicts are from a broken home. You know, it has these huge consequences. So I actually feel what he's doing is giving out some positive messages with a bit of comedy spin. You've got to be an adult to understand what he's doing.
You need the package for people to listen.
Mate, you need to get people's eyes on you so you can tell your message, your true message. And that's what he's done cleverly. And a lot of people can't see it.
Yeah. And one final thing, I guess I would say, because you mentioned Elon Musk before.
Yes.
There's a certain attribute there that, and this is something that it blows my mind. Actually, a lot of my friends also got carried into this Elon Musk hate thing, which I just don't understand.
Can't get either. No.
Like, what do you?
He's my hero.
Do you know anything about humans? They're like, oh, you're just like everybody else. You just worship Elon Musk. I'm like, no, I think you don't understand. You're in the majority now. You're the one that is like everybody else, hate him for no reason. And but it's not even that. It's that if you look at everything that he ever said, since he was anywhere near a public figure, and even before, because when people report about what he was talking about when he was a teenager, it was all the same thing. He's the most like everything he said, it's exactly what he's doing. He never went in the direction he didn't talk about first. What else do you expect of a human being, right? And then they're like, oh, but he's doing this thing with Twitter, and he's doing this thing he just cares about money. I'm like, he only cares about money? He doesn't have to work ever again. He works more than you will ever work now. It's like, what are you talking about?
He has
but
more
also
than you and does more than you.
But also, the reason I guess I'm mentioning him is because it almost seems like this signature in history that someone like Elon came along. It's not that I think that he's like aware of it, but it's almost like the simulation injected an individual like him because they saw that we're so behind.
Yeah.
So they needed this one guy to just carry us all on his back, just like, all right, let's go. Let's just go.
I'm with you. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, when you then layer on religion, when you look at, I'm not going to compare Elon Musk to Jesus Christ by any means. However, when you go back and you strip society and cultures down to our primitive selves, if you like, we're talking 12,000 years ago, where it was tribal, it was very small town communities. A figure did come in and they did think differently and they did talk differently and they created a following and they made the world a better place, very Jesus-esque. And then you have these figures, Tesla, Einstein, Elon, like you have these figures that do tend to come in, they think differently, they open different doors, they make the world a better place. And for some reason, a lot of people don't like that. And I don't know why.
Well, they're afraid because I think it's the same effect that you have when you're on the motorcycle, but you're not driving it.
Yeah.
It's very scary in the back.
Mate, you're good. You're
Yeah,
really
yeah.
fucking good, mate. That's great.
Yeah.
That's
No,
really,
you know
yeah.
exactly what I
Great.
mean, right? It's
I know
like
exactly what you mean.
you're going very fast.
Yeah.
You don't quite know what's gonna happen, and there's only so much you can do. You just gotta hold on, and people don't like this feeling. And I get it, I understand it, but in the end of the day, this whole techno fear, that's not helping. Like when I look at people like Tristan Harris talking about the whole, like the scary parts of AI, I'm like, it's very good to be aware, but I don't see you coming up with a solution. So all you're doing is you're fear mongering. You're essentially
Yep.
scaring people.
Yeah.
This is not going away. This is happening, right? Either you like it or not, it's happening. Yes, we can mitigate certain things. We can put restrictions. Which is what's happening now. That's great. That's awesome. But you shouldn't create more fear in people's minds, because this is something they're going to need to learn how to interact with. And you can't learn or can't want to learn to interact with something you're afraid of. So that's actually not really helpful. And I think that technology is not something that we made. It's just natural part of evolution. It's, if you look at like if you ask what was the one thing that was evolving from the beginning of time, it's information.
Yes.
The Big Bang, if the Big Bang in fact is what happened, and until now, the only thing that is the one common denominator is that there's more information, or that's not true in physical terms. There's no more information, but the intricacies of what informational forms can take, at least as life, it's definitely going in the direction of, again, to quote Terence McKenna, with novelty seems to be growing. There's like the novelty of the thing. So it seems like a natural progression to me that, life evolves, cell become multi-cells, and it becomes more complex, vertebrates, brains, human brains. And, just like a beaver can know how to build something outside, but it's not enough to escape its own environment. We all of a sudden reach a state in which that information figured out how to press against the environment faster than it presses against our genes. So now we control the environment and not the environment controlling us. We can actually modify our own genes. We can move it forward. And now we're creating external devices that are at the moment external for the information to move even faster, so we can interact with more possibilities. So yes, it feels like this crazy ramping up. And I understand that it feels the opposite of what I guess you would consider enlightenment, because it looks chaotic and crazy, and it doesn't look anything like somebody just sitting there under a tree. But guess what? They're both two modalities that are required in order for us to survive as a galactic species. Because you can sit and meditate all day and sing Kumbaya all day in front of a fire. Eventually, the sun will become a red giant. So if you don't pass that intelligence test, then you'll be wiped out.
And if paradox,
yeah, so you have to pass this intelligence test. You have to have people like Elon Musk working so we can get off this planet when it's time. But you also, and I want to emphasize this, also have to have people like the Buddha, that their science is the science of living, of the present moment. Now, I don't know, if it's true that if Elon Musk would have more of those attributes, would he ever engage with what he's doing? Because he seems like he's suffering a lot, right, by the virtue of what he's doing. I wouldn't want to be him, but I'm happy that he's
doing what he's doing.
Like him doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
But both of those are required. So I always say that my optimal and most rosy vision of humanity is a combination of people that are a good combination of technical abilities like Elon's, and the living abilities, and the respect to the present moment and everything like the Buddha. And we can take that into the galaxy. We can paint the galaxy with that, versus paint the galaxy with just like craziness and TikToks and all that stuff, which is fun and entertaining, but you have to balance it out with also like, what is this thing at the core? Like the thing that you experience on ayahuasca, right? You have to have that coming along for the ride. And the ride is constructed by the technologies that we create, basically.
My friend, I have one last question to ask you, and it's a crazy, crazy one. It's another philosophical conundrum, but astrophysics related. If what we're saying is, if what you're experiencing and saying is what it is, and we're able to open a door to see another reality as such through the use of light, what would the consequence of that is suggesting that it's universe wide, that you could shine this light this laser, this like
At any
anywhere in
point
the
in space,
universe.
yes.
And so with that in mind, is the universe conscious and are black holes portals to download data?
Wow. Just leave you with that.
See you next week.
Yeah, if you can summarize this in 5 minutes, I'll appreciate it. This is great. Well, let's see. This is a good challenge. Let's see if we can create sound bites out of this. I think that first of all, I think that the closest version to what I heard, the closest version I heard to what I think in fact is the case, is philosophy called idealism that is best articulated in our times by Bernardo Castro.
Castro, okay, yeah.
Castro, yeah. Bernardo Castro. I think it's
Castro, sorry, yeah.
Astrup, if I'm not mistaken. But the one thing I disagree with him is that life doesn't necessarily, like conscious doesn't have, according to him, consciousness can only be in biological systems. I don't see any reason to think that. But that's, I would say that's probably the only place where I disagree with him. So in that sense, yes, it's not that the universe, it's not that the universe is conscious, it's that the universe is consciousness. And that is a very different claim. So it's almost like, it's not like there's a universe and it has something we call consciousness. It's that consciousness itself is all there is.
Broke my brain a bit on that one. Consciousness is all there is.
All there is.
So everything is consciousness.
Consciousness is everything there is. It's and so just like for example, again, this is examples that I'm borrowing from him, but for example, he says that the brain is a third person observation of what consciousness looks like.
Yes.
From the outside.
Yep.
Okay. And then that's why the correlates exist of like when you do this to the brain, this happens experientially. It's because they're the same thing. And what the body of universal consciousness looks like is the universe. The physical universe is what the body of universal consciousness looks like. And you essentially, and by the way, this is something that I didn't know because until I listened to him talk, but you know this famous image that came out in the New York Times with the rat brain and the universe in the largest scale?
Yes, the similarities and how they looked. Right.
So everybody, obviously, especially in the scientific community, were very quick to dismiss this. They're like, okay, this is just like an image. What are you even talking about? But apparently there's some new research that came out that studied this from a topological perspective. So like if to people who don't know, topology is essentially dealing with surfaces. So it's like mathematically you learn what surfaces equal to others, even if they don't look the same. And they discovered that topologically, they're very similar. Like mathematically, there's a lot of attributes that are almost the same.
So right? The cosmic web is almost
the cosmic
like
mind.
The neurons in the mind.
Literally the cosmic mind. So that's a possibility, right?
Wow.
That's for the first question. If for the universe, and as for the black holes being hard drives, I like this. I actually, the thing that makes more sense to me, maybe because it's a little bit more philosophically smooth and poetic for me, which is not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, but that's what I prefer. I do like the idea that each black hole is a whole other universe, because it also continues the idea of what evolution is throughout the universe. Because essentially the idea would be that the second you enter a black hole, for you, the vectors flip, because you can't actually make the distinction between whether the universe is expanding or you're infinitely going to the center. They would look the same. Like you just collapsing inwards, it would look like the rest of it is actually expanding from you.
Wow.
So it's not like there was a big bang. It's that we are inside of an enormous black hole. And what's interesting about this theory is that because it gives you the possibility that the second matter enters from one universe to a black hole inside that universe, it's almost like it's giving birth to this mini universe in which it would have some of the attributes of the original universe because the matter came from that universe, including the laws of physics and everything. But the event horizon actually scrambles some of the elements. So it's like genetic mutation. And then the universe inside might have slightly different attributes. It won't resemble exactly the parent universe, and then you have this happening infinitely. And if you consider the fact that, I don't know if you know this, but actually most of the visible matter in the universe is contrived of black holes. We now know this to a pretty high degree. So like if you combine all the black holes in the
Most of
universe,
the matter is black holes.
most of it. So like if you look at so if you look at the calculation, if I'm not mistaken, I should probably look this up if I'm going to use this as an argument, but if I remember correctly, if you combine all the matter that is contained in black hole, the mass that's contained in black holes in the universe, including the supermassive black holes and the tiniest ones that are microscopic black holes.
There are microscopic black holes.
Oh yeah, there's also like tiny ones that just appear and disappear really quickly, like all the time. And
no idea. Okay, wow.
Yeah, and if you combine all of that, you actually have the majority of of the visible matter, and that doesn't include dark matter. We're not talking about dark matter. So like dark matter, we don't really know what it is. Which, by the way, this is something we can maybe talk about next time, because I actually think, and I'm emphasizing, I only think. I actually have nobody communicated this to me, not from the other side. Now, this is purely my guess. But I actually think that what they are and what we're seeing also is part of dark matter. I actually think that they are dark matter. I actually think that the galaxy is their city. I think the galaxy is their city. And they're using the nuclear reactor in the middle, the supermassive black hole, for energy. And a lot of the other stars, they borrow from the lower layers, but also they borrow computation, both analog computation and digital computation. And they also borrow our stories.
Yeah.
Figure out the larger things, like why the universe arose and all that stuff, because they get to observe lower simulations coming up with their own versions of reality. And they want to see if there's like a common denominator between like what different creatures say in different environments about their circumstances. And if you combine all of those stories, is there a common denominator between all of them that might point to something that goes, oh, that's why everything exists. So it's almost like it's the greenest system you can possibly develop, in which you exist in your own layer. You don't bother the other layers. The other layers are part of your computational matrix. They're part of the energetic tapestry that you're utilizing for your own stuff. But also, you allow all of those things to evolve in their respective spaces without intervening. Let them make their mistakes. Let them give them what we call free will, because that's a whole other conversation. But that's really like the largest picture I can paint for you in 5 minutes of what I see that in fact is going on. And the reason that we're allowed to know this is because it's actually not a secret. It's just that you need, in order to survive in those larger environments, you need to be able to even conceptualize it. You can't navigate in an environment you don't understand. So it's only when you reach a stage in your evolution that you're capable of entertaining these concepts and then utilizing these concepts to build certain things in your own respective environments. It's only then that you can say worthy, but not really. It's only then that when you clearly are maybe capable of starting interacting with the higher spaces. So then you're allowed. It's not that you're allowed. You were always allowed. You just couldn't figure it out.
Just had no idea.
A dog, I really love this example where a dog sitting and looking at you in front of your computer, sending emails all day. It's like, just like sitting in front of this thing. He can't, like, it's like, imagine trying to be a dog, trying to understand what the fuck is he doing there? He's just sitting there all day. Let's go for a walk. Let's do something.
Me and my girlfriend Sam, I swear, I'll have to get her to prove I'm not lying. Yesterday, we had the conversation. We were sat watching TV. We were watching the new Chris Pratt Amazon Prime series. I forgot what it's called, but it's brilliant. We were watching that. I think we binged 3 episodes, which was 3 hours over dinner and stuff. And we were sat there, and the dog, where we have a little Rottweiler called Thea, she was looking at me, looking at Sam, looking at me, and I had a smoke, and I thought, what must she think? And I turned to Sam. I thought, what must she think? We're sat here just staring at this square wall on the side. What
the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing? Wasting your life, you stupid human. Just sitting watching a screen.
Yeah, because it doesn't understand there's a whole world.
Yeah.
The thing is happening. We live our lives here. It lives its life mostly in the external physical world.
Yeah.
Maybe it goes woof once in a while in his head. I don't know. But like it's mostly interacting with the physical space, but it cannot interact with what we're interacting. So now we might take this one level up.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe the final thing I would say is, because I really love this example, Terence McKenna had this thing on his talk where he was talking about how we're being basically birthed right now, and we were going through the birth canal. And, you know, he says, if you look at the birth process, it looks like an emergency.
Yeah.
The walls are closing. There's blood everywhere. It's crazy. But also, notice what's happening.
Scratching your foot, smacking you on the arse.
Yeah, but even before then, imagine what happens when you start going down the birth canal. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You were comfortable. You were cozy. Everything was fine. And then you were fed. Everything was in place. And all of a sudden, you're being pushed out. And it feels like the end of the world. Yeah, exactly. We're always being pushed to like a cosmic vagina. And then you essentially, it is the end of the world for you.
Yeah.
It is the end of this world for you, for sure.
Correct.
But think about it from the perspective of a fetus. Imagine a fetus trying to imagine what it's like to be a lawyer, like to have a career. What is it? Like, it has no resemblance to anything in its environment, right? So it's like us saying, okay, what are we going to do when we're going to be birthed into the new space? Good luck trying to figure this out. You just have to go through this process first, and then you have to grow into that new environment. But you have to, if you're going to cling, if you're going to hold on, stop technology, stop doing this, stop doing that. You're just clawing your way out. You're going to go out, but you want to go kicking and screaming? My guess. That's like, it's, you know.
But you're going anyway.
Going anyway.
Oh, my friend, look, we'll wrap up now. Can I get Danny? Can I just say, mate, this has been hands down the most enjoyable podcast I've ever recorded, mate. I could talk to you for fucking hours, and it is clear to me, without shadow of a doubt, that I'm talking to somebody who is a great thinker of the generation, mate. And I wish you all the success, because I know a little bit about it. You clearly are fucking so far ahead, mate. And I'm excited to watch your journey, but I'm more excited to what you discover, mate. So good luck with everything, mate.
Thank you so much, Daniel. That was probably way more compliments that I deserve, but I had a blast in this conversation, and you really allowed me to express myself in exactly the right way. So I thank you for that. And I would definitely love to do it again if we're up to it.
Me too, my friend. Me too. Well, look, I'll let you go and enjoy your life, mate. And I'll drop you a WhatsApp, and I hope we hook up another time.
You too, brother. Talk
all
soon.
The best, mate. Take care.
Bye.
Now, guys, that is the end of the podcast. Dan and I are going to be doing another video in a month's time or so. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe and catch all the next content. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I'll see you on the next one.